What is good, YouTube? It's your boy OG Boy back with another video, and in today's video I got a bit of a spicy team here with the Galarian Stunfisk, Medicham, and Shadow Machamp as the closer in the back. So kind of the reason I decided to run this team is, even though it is pretty unbalanced and there are some core breakers to this team, I was seeing a lot of double steal in the back, and just in general, if the opponent has a steel type in the back, since the opponent won't have a place for that steel type to go against this team, like, it makes this team kind of strong. So it's one of those teams that, even though it is unbalanced, I figured it might perform well given what I was seeing in the meta there. So let's get into these battles and see if that ends up being the case, even though it's probably spoiled by the title. So first match here, we lead into a ghost type, so we're gonna go ahead and stay in here since our Stunfisk here is the best answer to the Sableye. And I'm just going to go straight Earthquake here. There's really no reason to bait, I'd say, because even if they double shield, as long as you double shield, you're still able to win this matchup. So we're going to get to our next Earthquake. Opponent throws their move, and I'm going to go ahead and shield this, since, like, if we don't shield, we're going to be in a pretty awkward position, since neither of our back two Pokemon do particularly well against the Sableye, and they're double shielding. So this kind of indicates to me that they're pretty weak to Galarian Stunfisk in the back, and usually that means there's some sort of steel type in the back, likely a Bastiodon or their own Galarian Stunfisk or something like that. So they swap in an Azumarill, so I'm going to bring in my Medicham, and this is one of those core breakers to the team that I was talking about. Like, the Azumarill does have play against all three of the Pokemon, although the Galarian Stunfisk and the Medicham have decent amount of play against the Azumarill, as you're going to see here. So 2 Psychics is just going to, like, just about able to take out the Azumarill, and we're going to be able to reach the second Psychic on the CMP tie here, which is perfect for us. So they actually can't farm you down from this range anyways, like you'd be able to reach an Ice Punch, so they have to throw a move. And it ends up being the Play Rough, and we're going to be able to farm this Azumarill down, and we're not going to get to see what's in the back, but most likely some sort of steel type, which is why the opponent top lefts out of there. GG's to that opponent. Next match here, this is also kind of a core breaker, since the Medicham has play against all three of your Pokemon, and your best answer to the Medicham is your own Medicham, but they have the ability to swap out of this matchup if they wanted to, but fortunately for us, they are staying in. So it is a little bit dicey though if they intend on investing shields, but I'm just gonna go ahead and let this through, since sometimes you gotta kind of play those mind games. Like, even though you're kind of desperate to get rid of this Medicham, you don't want to seem too desperate, right, and double shield right off the bat, or else they might figure like, like, my Medicham has some sort of value here. So we both simul KO, and now it's kind of just like a toss-up as to what Pokemon I want to bring in. And I see the normal typing, so I'm thinking that it's a Lickitung, so I bring in my Galarian Stunfisk, but it ends up being a Vigoroth, so that's kind of a bit of a pick that you don't see too often anymore in the Open Great League. So I was caught off guard, and now I'm kind of like kicking myself, since we definitely would have preferred having our Shadow Machamp on the Vigoroth there, but this isn't too bad of a situation as well, except for we do not bait our Rock Slide and we go straight for it, and they shield it, but we're able to still reach a second Rock Slide. So this works out kind of well for us. And even though the Vigoroth knows Bulldoze here, it's not going to KO our Galarian Stunfisk, since it isn't stab, and it's also just a pretty bad move in general. So we're going to be able to reach this Earthquake here, and this should knock out the Vigoroth, but we actually don't even get to find out, since the opponent top lefts there. GG's to that opponent. Next match, we have Galarian Stunfisk into Trevenant, and our back two Pokemon are pretty weak to Ghost types, and it's pretty fortunate that a lot of teams, if they do run Trevenant, they tend to run it in the lead. So our Galarian Stunfisk is the best answer for this, so we're going to go ahead and stay in here, and I'm also going to invest shield, since I know with Galarian Stunfisk in the back, or with Trevenant in the front, there's usually a Galarian Stunfisk in the back. So the popular like safe swap Pokemon are the Alolan Ninetales and the Azumarill. So they bring in the Galarian Stunfisk as a response to my Medicham, and this really isn't a true response to the Medicham, so I'm figuring that it's probably double steel. So this is the exact reason we decided to run this team, and now we're in a pretty dominant position. We should be able to either grab the last shield or one of their shields. They haven't even shielded yet, or just take them out. We're able to take them out, and they're most likely going to bring the Trevenant in, since they do have energy on the Trevenant, and we can't actually farm them down before they get to a move. If I shielded this, maybe with the counter that snuck through, they would have been KO'd, but I'm just going to let my Medicham go, and I'm going to tank the energy on my Galarian Stunfisk here, since I figure they do have a Bastion on the back, since that's typically what you see when there is double steal, and our Machamp up a shield should just be able to farm it all the way down, and that is just GG's there. Next match, we have Trevenant into the Galarian Stunfisk, so another one of those Trevenant teams that most likely has a Stunfisk in the back. So again, kind of the same thing as last match. We're going to stay in here, and I'm going to invest shield, since I know my Galarian Stunfisk has value against whatever is in the back. Since typically, like I said before, it's either like double steal, an Azumarill, or a Alolan Ninetales, so we kind of need our Stunfisk to be healthy in any of those scenarios here. So I'm going to go ahead and double shield here. So it's fortunate for us that the opponent was going for the Shadow Balls right away, since those are a lot more threatening than the Seed Bombs. And now we're going to chip the Azumarill with an Earthquake before swapping into our Medicham. So this gets a little bit dicey if the opponent decides to shield the Medicham, or not the Medicham, the Azumarill rather, since we won't be able to reach 2 Psychics before we get taken out by the Azumarill. So they thankfully let it go, and they're likely going to try to farm down our Medicham here. And we're able to get this Ice Punch off, which is really good for us. We're able to grab the opponent's last shield, and now we bring in the Galarian Stunfisk. They have a Shadow Ball already, so this is definitely going to knock out our Galarian Stunfisk, but I know that we're going to be able to win CMP against the Trevenant with our Shadow Machamp. So this cross chop goes off, and as suspected, there is a Galarian Stunfisk in the back. So I'm going to count to 8 just to get as much counter damage off and throw this on the CMP to kind of just ensure that I do enough damage to the Galarian Stunfisk and am able to take it out. So GG's to that opponent. And then in our final match, we kind of face another core breaker in a way. Like, the Galarian Stunfisk has an okay matchup to the Deoxys defense, but the Deoxys defense is doing super effective damage with the fast move of the counter, but our charge moves are hurting them quite a bit, and they can't really throw anything at us that will warrant a shield. So I'm just going to stay in here. They Psycho Boost, which means they're likely going to pivot out, and they pivot out into a Umbreon here. So our Shadow Machamp really likes to see this, and even though Shadow Machamp is really squishy, we should be able to tank one Last Resort still and farm it all the way down. If they have Psychic though, that's kind of really bad for us, but thankfully they do have the typical moveset of the Last Resort. So now the Deoxys defense comes back in. I'm going to CMP tie them on their Psycho Boost. So this gives us some chip damage, which is going to help us on or later in the match. So now I'm going to bring the Medicham in to get a little bit of a farm on the Deoxys, but they swap immediately into the Skarmory here. And I probably should have swapped out immediately into my Galarian Stunfisk, as I already have energy loaded on it. So these are probably going to be getting the shields here. I'm throwing on 4 so that the opponent can't sneak in another Air Slash. Or is it Air Slash? No. What is the... I forget the fast move, but it's a 3-turn fast move. And I'm going to go ahead and let this go, since I know they have back-to-back, and I'm kind of scared that if I allow them to get the back-to-back off, that their switch timer is going to be up, and they're going to be able to swap into their Deoxys defense before I'm able to get that last rock slide off. But I actually don't know if the timing would have worked out that way, but this just felt like the safer play to me at the time. So at this point, we're pretty safe since we should just be able to counter everything down. Even though the Deoxys defense is able to get to a Psycho Boost here, I know it's not going to KO. And we do have just enough health to counter down the Skarmory there. So good game to my opponent there. We were able to go on a 5-0 sweep since we kind of made a good meta call there, and we saw a lot of steel types, and we're like, why don't we just make a team that completely hard counter steel types? So yeah, that's all for today's video. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.